Fox News deliberately leaking footage to smear Tucker Carlson? And if they are, is it because they disagree with him on cultural issues, or is it because they think Tucker Carlson is about to cost them a lot of money? Hello there, you 6.4 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this voyage to truth and freedom. Within you there is a deep wisdom, a river of joy, waiting to be reached. As Yogananda says, dive into the river of joy within you and drown. Now, the Fox versus Tucker case is an interesting one. Loads of us are very interested in Tucker Carlson. Why are Fox deliberately smearing Tucker Carlson? Allegedly. What is it he has against them? And do Fox News have anything on Tucker that's genuinely dangerous? What does it tell us about the shifting media space? Is it, as I have been telling you for a while now, it's no longer left v right, it's periphery versus centre. And I would regard, say, Jon Stewart as a voice of the periphery and Tucker as a voice of the periphery, i.e. they're both attacking the establishment. Why then can there not be new alliances? What is it about Tucker Carlson that makes some people love him and some people hate him? And what will Fox News do to prevent Tucker Carlson breaking out on his own with his own media voice? And what does that tell us about the decay in mainstream media right now? First of all, there's this tweet from Glenn Greenwald, the right-wing fascist, over with us on Rumble. There's obviously a decision by Fox to wage a massive war on Tucker Carlson's character, partnering with both the New York Times and Media Matters to do it. And it's extremely odd for many reasons, beginning with the fact that he hasn't uttered a negative word about them. So let's have a look at the Fox News leaked footage and determine for ourselves, is it that bad, and why are Fox doing it?
Overnight, a new report about former Fox News host Tucker Carlson's private comments after his bombshell departure from Fox News. In a text message obtained by the New York Times, sent by Carlson to one of his producers in the hours after the January 6th attack on the Capitol, the host allegedly describes watching a video of a group of people he calls Trump guys violently attacking a, quote, Antifa kid, calling it dishonorable and adding, "It's not how white men fight."
That might make you feel a certain feeling. Certainly using terms around race seems like it's adjacent to racism, doesn't it? That's, I think, what we all feel. If you hear, that's not how white men fight, you start to feel like, oh yeah, that sounds like we're moving towards racism. So let's see what he actually says and if it's any different from that. And if it is different, if you think it's being presented in a way that's different from how it was originally said, then that tells you something, doesn't it?
Carlson also writing he found himself rooting for the mob. "I really wanted them to hurt the kid. I could taste it." But then Carlson writes, quote, "An alarm went off. This isn't good for me. I'm becoming something I don't want to be. If I reduce people to their politics, how am I better than he is?"
Sounds like an interesting, reflective perspective to me. Let me know if you agree with that in the chat.
The message surfaced as part of Dominion's defamation lawsuit against Fox News. A redacted version appears in public court filings, but the Times reports members of Fox's board of directors became aware of the unredacted version on the eve of trial and were so alarmed by Carlson's views on violence and racial superiority, they took steps to investigate Carlson and settle the case for nearly $800 million.
So Fox cite those text messages as the reason that they fired Tucker Carlson, that they were disturbed by his views on race. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know that Fox News in general is hypersensitive about people being blunt or clumsy around the subject of race. And this in particular seems like someone analysing their own previous bigotry and prejudice and being willing to let go of it, also off camera. So that's interesting because it's revealing in that sense. I would ask this as well. If people cannot change, how are we ever going to change the world? If someone's once done something that is off key and then they disavow it and move on, you're like, no, too late, you've done. Then where's redemption, salvation, improvement, change, progress, revolution? Oh, that's interesting. None of us can ever get together. Oh, interesting policy.
Video of some behind-the-scenes comments from Carlson have also surfaced since Fox settled its lawsuit with Dominion. Left-leaning group Media Matters posting a video appearing to show Carlson chatting with host Piers Morgan before an interview.
If we're going to talk about sex, I'd love to hit some of the fine points of technique. But it's your show. It's totally up to you.
We can certainly talk about your sexual technique, especially after your tanning testicles last week.
Not mine. We'll speak in more general terms, but I've got something to add.
Harmless jokes.
Previously, the New York Times reported it had obtained a video of Carlson discussing his, quote, postmenopausal fans and referring to a woman as, quote, yummy.
Come on, guys. I am completely against all forms of bigotry and prejudice. Racism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia. Not liking people, judging people on the basis of a characteristic around their religion or their race or their identity is not only horrible, it's a stupid waste of time. And I'm willing to criticize that in anybody. Absolutely anybody, because it's an obstacle to the progress we absolutely must make if we are to change the world. But someone talking about their own testicles and tanning and referring to someone as yummy or postmenopausal. Postmenopausal is not very nice. I wouldn't like someone saying that about someone I loved. I'd kind of, don't say that. That's my auntie or my mum or whoever. I wouldn't like it. But I wouldn't say, you cannot work in media ever. That is, whoa.
But nobody's going to watch it on Fox Nation. Nobody watches Fox Nation because the site sucks.
This other clip could be more revealing because it shows him criticizing Fox.
I'm just frustrated with it's hard to use that site. I don't know why they're not fixing it. It's driving me insane. And they're like making like Lifetime movies, but they don't work on the infrastructure of the site. Like what?
That's just insider stuff. Someone criticizing bad management. That happens everywhere, doesn't it?
It's crazy, and it drives me crazy because it's like we're doing all this extra work and no one can find it. It's unbelievable, actually. They're ignoring the fact that the site doesn't work, and I think it's like a betrayal of our efforts. That's how I feel. So of course, I resent it.
So there you go. Now, perhaps a more helpful opinion might be the opinion of someone I personally deeply respect, Jon Stewart. Let's have a look at what he had to say about Tucker Carlson.
To your point, though, about like a guy like Tucker Carlson, like that's cynical. What he does is cynical.
Right.
And he hides the true motivation for it. And that's what I mean by the difference between well-intentioned, honest brokering and cynical manipulation.
Tucker Carlson has said things about race that I completely disagree with. And in fact, some of those things I raised on his show. What Jon Stewart appears to be saying is that those things are so insidious that it nullifies the significance and importance of the anti-establishment things that I agree with Tucker Carlson on, and I would imagine that Jon Stewart agrees with him on as well. I suppose where I differ from Jon Stewart is that I believe that people can change, that people can say things that they now disavow and don't believe in. I believe that we can all evolve together, and that if you exclude someone like Tucker Carlson from the conversation, who's popular, anti-establishment, anti-corporate, and anti-war, because in the past they've said things you disagree with, you potentially lose not only an important and skilled ally, but also access to millions, hundreds of millions of people that like him. But let me know what you think about that in the chat. So, if it's true that Fox News are releasing footage in order to smear Tucker Carlson, could it be something to do with this? According to Axios, Tucker Carlson is preparing to unleash allies to attack Fox News in an effort to bully the network into letting him work for or start a right-wing rival. Fox, which has seen its ratings plunge in Carlson's slot since he was let go 13 days ago, wants to sideline him by paying him $20 million a year not to work. Fox News viewers in Tucker Carlson's old time slot reportedly decreased by about 50% since the network's biggest star was shockingly ousted. Axios has learned Carlson is busy plotting a media empire of his own, but he needs Fox to let him out of his contract, which expires in January 2025 after the presidential election. Carlson confidants say he's also contemplating building a direct-to-consumer media outlet where his millions of fans could pay to watch him. Carlson's predecessor in his Fox slot, Bill O'Reilly, created a blueprint for this. A close friend of Carlson said his team is preparing for war, he wants his freedom. But why is Tucker Carlson so fascinating? Why are there some people that loathe him, and why do so many of you love Tucker Carlson? Carlson was a genuine aberration in US corporate media, which is why he's gone. Yes, over the years, Carlson played on white fears, placing him firmly on the right. But he also gave over his massive corporate platform at Fox News to some of the most critical and thoughtful independent journalists and pundits around, from Glenn Greenwald and Aaron Mate to Jimmy Dore. Carlson not only brought them into the living rooms of Main Street, but he undoubtedly helped them grow their audiences and influence. That is true. I think many more people have heard of Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mate and Glenn Greenwald as a result of Tucker Carlson. So I suppose that's the platforming argument. People say, oh, you shouldn't platform those people. Well, Tucker Carlson platformed some pretty radical anti-establishment voices. By the way, voices that are also loathed by the left. And I don't think Aaron Mate or Glenn Greenwald or Jimmy Dore are racist, and the liberal establishment also hates them. So is there some continuum here of anti-establishment rhetoric is what gets condemned and derided rather than some social or cultural type of rhetoric? But having principles is a complicated business. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be about to tell you that you have to at least consider purchasing this product. I'll make it funny. Good bacteria in your gut can impact every process in your body, even that one. But did you know 99% of probiotics don't even work at all? That's because they don't make it to your gut. They go down the mouth hole, they could end up anywhere. Unlike this smart probiotic by Height, the only product on the market that's proven to work by science. Gone are the days of feeling bloated, blocked and lethargic, and that's thanks to the world's first probiotic that targets gut, mental and immune health. You little capsule of glory. Boffins, experts, Poindexters in the Heights lab have shown that 33.9 billion friendly bacteria from this little bottle make it to your gut alive. You're gonna make it, kids! But that's actually 170% more than they claim on the label. This has got to be a first. It's better than they're telling you. Even better, you only need to take one capsule a day, which means you can say goodbye to foul-tasting liquid probiotics like this. Oh, you dirty devil. Where did that come from? An abscess. Take control of your gut health and keep yourself regular, you know what I mean, with the Smart Probiotic. Use brand 15 at checkout to get your exclusive discount. Now let's go back to that other magnificent young man. In that way, he exposed ordinary Americans to critical perspectives, especially on US foreign policy, that they had no hope of hearing anywhere else, and almost certainly not from so-called liberal corporate media outlets like CNN and MSNBC. Sometimes I think a voice like Tucker Carlson's exposes how unliberal CNN and MSNBC actually are. Because if you're really liberal, then you should always be talking about maximum amount of freedom for unnecessary taxation, only taxation that leads to the benefit of vulnerable people. Not taxation that ends up with the military-industrial complex. You wouldn't have former military-industrial complex employees come on your channels if you were actually against war, if you were actually for freedom. So I think that figures like Tucker Carlson, and I'll be honest, on occasion I feel that I've been used in this way, are attacked and smeared and censored and shut down, not because of anything particular that Tucker Carlson has done, but because Tucker Carlson's voice is antithetical to their interests. Let me know in the chat if you agree with that. And he did so while constantly ridiculing the media's craven collusion with those in power. But all that is being ignored. Media analysis of Carlson's departure has focused so far almost exclusively on his clashes with Fox News management and a series of disrespectful tweets. But those clashes cannot be understood outside a wider context in which Carlson was pushing against institutional media constraints at Fox designed to prevent the real work of journalism, holding the powerful to account. So by having on Jimmy Dore or Seymour Hersh or Aaron Maté or Glenn Greenwald, Tucker Carlson introduced Fox News viewers to rhetoric and ideas that they wouldn't hear anywhere else. Many of those people are virulently anti-establishment, they all are in fact, and anti-war in particular. And I'm beginning to think that the same way that the pharmaceutical industry perhaps had a little too much influence, bias and interest in the pandemic and were able to manipulate regulation, allegedly, that when it comes to war is an overarching power that continually influences the trajectory of American foreign policy. So by introducing voices that oppose those ideals, you are against the establishment, and that the establishment care more about that than they do about indiscretions or inappropriate things that Tucker Carlson might have said. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Rather than welcome this record, the blinkered tribalists of the left preferred instead to accuse Greenwald, Maté and others either of outing themselves as right-wingers by appearing on Carlson's show or by providing legitimacy to Fox's white fear-mongering. It even reached the absurd depths that any retweet of a Carlson clip was denounced because supposedly the left was poisoning its own well. We would soon convert ourselves from socialism to national socialism. But if Carlson's firing by Murdoch suggests anything, it's that the corporate media had grown increasingly fearful of the extent to which Carlson was becoming a loose cannon, and that the kind of independent journalism he hosted and amplified was gaining traction. A few years ago, we did content that was just anti-everything on Fox. We went and trolled Fox outside their premises. Here we are at Fox's headquarters.
You want to get arrested?
When I found myself on Glenn Greenwald's show or on Tucker Carlson's show, we saw them openly attacking the establishment, the military-industrial complex, questioning the power of lobbyists and the donator class. And for me, that's necessary and important wherever you find it. Particularly if the old model is indeed dead, then new alliances are going to be necessary. And that's going to evolve some unusual new conversations and unusual new relationships, isn't isn't it? Let me know in the chat. Through a rapid rise in his ratings, Carlson proved that there is an appetite, a big one, for stories that question the consensual narrative imposed by the rest of the corporate media, for stories that actually hold the powerful to account, rather than simply claiming to, and for stories that refuse to assume Western meddling around the globe is necessarily a good thing. If it was only white fear-mongering that drew audiences and propelled network news hosts to the top slot, then Sean Hannity would surely be king of the ratings, not Carlson. The reality, the one Carlson confirms, is there is an audience ready to listen to critical independent journalism when it can be found. The job of the corporate media is precisely to stop viewers hearing dissident views, a rule that Carlson played fast and loose with for too long. Now it seems he has paid the price. Maybe on Fox News, Tucker Carlson initially was a voice that was completely in alignment with their general agenda. But perhaps over time, Tucker Carlson's perspective shifted. Didn't he used to be on MSNBC after all? Maybe he has continued to evolve and become an independent voice that attacks both the right and the left, and whilst he may have his own cultural views, he is ultimately an ally to those that attack the establishment and want to see real and meaningful political and systemic change. That's possible. People alter over time. It's interesting to consider too, if we are debating the effect of exposing Fox News audiences to left-wing and dissident perspectives, what impact Greenwald, Mattei and others have had on Carlson himself. That's an interesting perspective. I know that from listening to a variety of radical opinions, my own political perspectives have changed. They have shown me essentially that any institutional, donor-backed party will have such entrenched political and financial biases that they can't provide a meaningful carriage for genuinely radical views, because that is the main thing that they oppose. Systemic change, radical change, empowerment of ordinary people. That they will resist at all costs. Those who knew him well, such as Greenwald, have argued that he is on a political path away from the views he once held. There is certainly evidence for this, and it may be that it was just such evidence that sealed his fate. Sounding more like Noam Chomsky, Carlson recently referred to the media as a control apparatus and admits, "I spent most of my life being part of the problem, including by promoting the 2003 Iraq War. The media are not here to inform you, really, even on the big things that matter, like the economy, wars, COVID. Their job is not to inform you. They are working for the small group of people who actually run the world. They are their servants. We should treat them with the maximum contempt because they have earned it." That seems to me more likely to evoke the ire of Fox News and Rupert Murdoch than him saying that he had a realization while looking at an aspect of a riot, realizing that really what's the point in hating anyone, or saying yummy. I don't think Fox News have strong views on that kind of thing. I do think they have strong views on people saying, hey, the media primarily operates to amplify the opinions of powerful elites that transcend democratic power and are beyond the bipartisan systems that govern America. That, I think, whoa, they don't want that stuff out there, do they? Let me know in the chat. Presumably Murdoch understood that he was very much included in the small group of people who actually run the world, a group that should earn our contempt. But beyond speculating about Carlson's motives, the more significant point, the one we should celebrate and highlight, is that media consumers are slowly becoming less passive and more critical of traditional sources of information. And this is absolutely necessary. If we remain passive, we are not going to change anything. That media outlets such as ours, I would hope, are now intersecting with genuine activism, because you can't continually carry this message and not contemplate how real change could be enacted. Carlson understood that trend and tried to straddle the divide. He had a foot in both the corporate media camp and the independent camp. Through his sacking, he has proved just how untenable that position is. One, the corporate media is there to entertain and distract us and keep us locked into tribal identities, banging heads against each other in utter futility. The other, independent media, is there to help us think more critically about power and about our responsibilities as citizens. You can't serve those two masters, as Tucker Carlson just found out the hard way. So does that seem like a more accurate appraisal than the one you're seeing elsewhere in the mainstream media, a media that's invested in attacking Tucker Carlson because the small differences between Fox and MSNBC are the only differences that they're interested in debating, not the huge differences that we're willing to talk about? Decentralizing power, getting money absolutely out of politics by bringing down the power of the military-industrial complex who need forever wars in order to justify their own existence and to continue their ongoing profit. These are the conversations we want to have with you, and it seems to me, personally, that Tucker Carlson wanted to have those conversations as well. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the chat and the comments below. Turn on the notification bell and subscribe right now. It's the only way you'll get the content that we make for you every single day. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these, but more important than any of that, please stay free.